If you're new to cycling, then there are many things about it that might seem like a bit of a mystery, but we all had to learn once, and that includes how to change a tyre, which is exactly what I'm going to show you how to do now. All you're going to need for this are some tyre levers, a pump, new tyre obviously, and possibly a 15mm spanner or wrench, depending on whether or not you've got quick releases on your bike. Now, there are a few reasons why you might want to change a tyre. Firstly, the old one might have worn out. Secondly, it might have a split in it that will prove dangerous. Or thirdly, you just want to replace your old tyre with something newer and faster. And why not? It will make a big difference to your ride. Whatever the reason though, the process remains the same and it starts in exactly the same way. You've got to take your wheel out. With the front wheel, you simply want to release the brakes, which in this case, you do using that little lever, then undo the quick release, and then unscrew it a few turns, and the wheel should just drop out. If it doesn't, you want to make sure that the tyre isn't catching on the brakes or that you've undone the quick release enough. Both of those could be potential problems. With the rear wheel, it's slightly more complicated, which is why we've got a video showing you how to do it. The link to which is in the description beneath this one, or depending on if you're watching on a mobile, it might be just up there. Next step, you will want to deflate your current tyre. Now, with a Presta valve, which is one like this one, then you can unscrew that little lock ring there and then just press on it to let the air out. If, however, you've got what's called a Schrader valve, which is this one here, which you commonly find on car tyres, then it's a case of unscrewing the dust cap if it's got one on, and then pressing on that little bit in there to deflate the tyre. With the tyre deflated, we can now actually think about removing it. The first step is to push the bit of the tyre that's next to the rim away from the rim. So that's called the bead. And by pushing it into the middle, we're giving it a little bit more space to actually come off, making our job easier. Next, I'm going to get one of my tyre levers. I'm going to insert the hooked end underneath the bead of the tyre, and then simply a case of levering it down and pulling that bead over the edge of the rim. Now, with some tyre and rim combinations, it'll be loose enough at this point that we can actually just push the tyre lever around the rim and lever it off. However, some tyre and rim combinations are much, much tighter than that, in which case we will need to get our second and possibly even our third tyre lever into play. If it is too tight though, insert your first one and then use the little hook on the end to loop it around one of your spokes. Then get your second tyre lever, put it underneath the tyre about 2 inches or 5 or 6 centimetres away, and repeat the process. And then if need be, you might need your third one. With one side of the tyre completely off, we can now just pull our inner tube out. And then the second side of the tyre should very easily come off. It's very rare that you'd have to use your tyre levers again to get this second side off. Now, before we proceed any further, it's worth taking the time at this point to check the inside of the rim here, because this is covered with a layer of tape and it stops the inner tube getting punctured on sharp bits like the holes where the spokes go. So just make sure that that's still in really good condition before we proceed any further. Otherwise you might end up getting punctures every time you pump your tyres up, and that gets really annoying. Get the tyre out of the packaging and then have a very quick look along the sidewall here to see whether the manufacturer has specified which way the tyre needs to rotate. Now, on road tyres, that's not often the case, but if there's any knobbles, then the chances are that you will have to specify the rotation. Once you've sorted that, it's a case of putting one side of the tyre back on the rim. I find it helps to do it at my feet and then just guide the tyre back on. Now, it's unlikely again that you'll need tyre levers for this bit. It's normally loose enough. With half the tyre now on, it's time to put the inner tube back in. And you start at the valve hole. So you thread the valve into it, and then you want to stuff the inner tube back into the tyre, and it really helps if you've just got a little bit of air, as you can see I've got here, inside the tube, so it actually holds its shape a little bit. Now it's time to put the other side of the tyre back on. So again, starting at the valve, just using your thumbs, push the bead of the tyre back inside the rim, and then work your hands around it until you get to a point where you can't actually do it with your thumbs anymore, and that's where we need our tyre levers. At this point we want to use our tyre levers in the exact opposite way to how we got the tyre off. So you put the hook on the inside and then just lever the tyre back on. Now you want to be really careful at this point and make sure you don't get your inner tube caught in the bead of the tyre. So if that's happening, you need to stop immediately because you might actually puncture the inner tube. And it's just a case of pushing the inner tube further back into the tyre. With the tyre now on, before we actually pump it up, we just want to make completely sure that it is squarely seated and there's no bits of inner tube poking out. So just have a quick look round to make sure you've done your job properly. I'm sure you will have done. With all this done, just pump the tyre up to the manufacturer's recommended pressure. Again, that'll be written on the sidewall of the tyre. Once it's all pumped up, simply pop it back in your bike, reconnect your brakes, and you're good to go. There we go then, mystery solved. Now we've got a whole load of videos on GCN taking you through from basic maintenance right up to more advanced stuff. But perhaps one of the most useful is how to replace a chain. If you want to see that, you can get through to it just up there. Or for all of our maintenance videos in one handy place, you can get through to our playlist, which is just down there. Otherwise, subscribe to GCN to make sure you don't miss any maintenance videos coming up. Then just click on my new tyre if you like. Or if that's just a bit small, you can click on any of this bit and it'll just make you subscribe.